Welcome to My Appalachian Home. Each week we journey into the heart of Appalachia. Its stories, its music, its people, and its traditions. From the front porch to the winding back roads, I'll share the rich tapestry of life of this one-of-a-kind region that I call home. Settle in and discover the spirit of Appalachia, one story at a time. Rick Dollar here for My Appalachian Home, our new podcast that kind of brings to light what goes on in the Appalachian region and with people who are, in regard to the Appalachian region, very busy people like this gentleman right here. Brad, how are you today, sir?
Hey there, Rick. Great to be with you.
Yeah, thanks, man. You're a very busy man. Let me go down this resume that I have here, man, which is like 2.5 pages long here. You are, in regard to IBMA, you are a broadcast media representative, I would say, more than anything. You represent all the broadcast people across the country that are members in IBMA. And you play banjo for Charm City Junction, of course, and Ken and Brad. Now, you got to help me with your last name here, dude, because this is something I'm struggling with.
Ken Brad Kolodner
Kolodner,
is our
man.
band name. Yes.
That's killing me, man. What's wrong with me? I should have paid attention in English class more. You're a
Kolodner is in English, I think, but fair enough. I think it's Eastern European. It's my dad's side of the family came over to Baltimore about 120 years ago from Eastern Europe. So I think that's where the origin of Kolodner is.
Well, we have something in common there that we're going to talk about after this. You're a broadcaster with Folk Alley, and you're on Bluegrass Country Radio. Actually, that's where our show started. Actually, a few years ago, you're a teacher. You teach clawhammer banjo on Clawhammer Corner. Is that correct?
Yeah,
I have so far.
You're doing great, Rick. Yeah, I think this will fill up the rest of the time.
Exactly. You're co-founder of the Baltimore Old Time Music Blues or Old Time Music Festival, I guess you'd say. But that's a handful right there. I mean, I've been involved with things like that in my past, and geez, I mean, about 4 months out of the year, you're just pulling your hair out, you know. That's how I got.
Yeah, that's fair. So.
But what we like to do on this podcast is find people like you that have all this stuff juggling in the air, and you somehow pull it off. That's what's crazy to me.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Well, I've found the secret for a few more hours in the day. And no, it's interesting when I zoom out and think about all the various projects I have going on simultaneously. Each one of them sort of crafted one at a time over the years. I've been doing music professionally for about 12 years now. I grew up around this music. My dad's a professional musician, so he really helped show me in those early years how the entrepreneurial spirit of being a self-employed, essentially small business owner, the value of that, how to do it efficiently, how to be really mindful of your time, how to say no to things. Although it certainly doesn't sound like I do a good job of that based on your intro there. But I think at the end of the day, it's about the joy I have for this music, the passion I have for playing banjo and old time and roots bluegrass music, and then how can I get more of that in my life? And then on the flip side, how do I find avenues for other people to extract that same joy that I get out of this music? How do I find those other opportunities, not just to play with my own band, but to create space for other artists who are making great music, writing great songs, have something really interesting to say musically? How can I provide a platform for them as well, using my tools and skill set? And I find that very inspiring, and on one hand, yes, it can be exhausting at times, but I've tried to do it in a sustainable way for my own sake, making sure I don't take on too many projects at once. It's spread out throughout the year. Really, I like to think efficient with my time during the day and focused on, the important components of the projects that I'm working on. But I think, any one of those things can certainly get into the details of each of the various projects. But it all kind of comes back to making sure that I'm still musically inspired, creatively inspired. And at the core of what I do, I am a musician. I love playing the banjo. I love playing shows with my bands, Charm City Junction, and with my dad, Ken, who's a hammer dulcimer player and fiddle player. And that's the music I really grew up around, was old time and roots music. I couldn't escape it when I was a little kid. So it was a matter of time before I picked up the banjo as a teenager. But yeah, I think at my core, still a musician, and that's really when my heart gets racing and I feel so connected to this music when I'm playing it. But on the flip side, it is really a joy to be in the audience and to be a wallflower and to just step back and give the floor to somebody else.
I think that's a lot of it too. You said two or three things there. Staying inspired. As a broadcaster and a podcaster, I mean, we didn't know we were doing it, but about 15 years ago, Tony Dean and I started a podcast. We wanted to interview famous people. We thought that's the way to get people to watch. Well, not always, but it was a lot of work for a lot of years. And being, doing broadcasting before that for about 15 years, I mean, I was spent. I mean, I was at the end of the day, it was done. Um, but staying inspired was what kept me going. And, being able to come up with new ideas for podcasts, new ways to represent people or push them out there so that the rest of the world can see them. I think you're right. That's the key. It's staying inspired.
And figuring out what it is that allows you to stay inspired, because it's not the same for everybody. For some folks, it's just playing their own music. That's what inspires them. For others, it's going to concerts or going to festivals. For others, it's, jamming with other people. For some people, it's listening to music on the radio. It could be a lot of different things that inspires you musically. And I've found over the years that it can come from a variety of places. For me, it can be sitting in a jam session deep in the woods, late at night at a festival, playing tunes until who knows what hour of the day.
Oh, yeah.
That's inspiring to me. It's also inspiring for me to sit right here and curate my program for Bluegrass Country Radio or Folk Alley and
Right.
listen to all the new music that's being released and recorded every year. It's amazing when I think about all the artists that deserve to have a platform to have their music shared, and I can just sit here and listen to music, and that's inspiring to me. And so I think being able to know how to turn those knobs up or down throughout the year, being able to curate a house concert series here that I do at my place, just sitting on my stairs listening to a band, who drove all day to be here, that's inspiring. So finding all these different avenues to fulfill my or refill my inspirational well, that's something I'm always working on.
Right. Now, you and I have, we talked a little bit about those instruments behind you on the wall, just calling my name. Uh, I used to run the ACMA, the Appalachian Cultural Music Association, and we had things like this on the wall. We had dulcimers on the wall. We would have, every once in a while, we'd have a guy come in and say, "Hey, can I play that?" And, as executive director, I'm sitting there going, do I or don't I? But it's a special gift to be able to do this. I know friends that are banjo players, and when they see something that's out of the norm, they freak, because they're like, I don't know if I can do that or not. Can I make
Banjo
that
players are
sound
kind
good?
of like they're kind of like hot rod car owners. They're always tweaking things. It's never exactly how they want it. They see a new shiny one and they've got to have it. And yeah, so I definitely am guilty of banjo acquisition syndrome and have quite a number of banjos here. The way I rationalize it is that they all have different textures. They all kind of provide something unique. So I have my main player, my primary instrument, which was actually built here in the Baltimore, D.C. area by a really wonderful clawhammer and open back banjo maker named Kevin Enoch. I've got one of his banjos. That's kind of my main instrument. But then my secondary banjo is this gourd banjo that you're seeing. You can't
Right.
obviously see it in radio world right now, but it's essentially a throwback to what the banjo might have looked like 150 plus years ago. It has a gourd as a head, literally a gourd that grew out of the ground on a farm somewhere in Pennsylvania, and then it has a goatskin head, a piece of walnut going through it as the neck, and then it has nylon strings, so it has a much more earthy, mellow sound. And I remember hearing one of these gourd banjos years ago when I was first starting to play banjo. There was an album released by one of my favorite clawhammer banjo players named Adam Hurt, who lives in Danville, Virginia these days, but
Yeah.
originally from Minnesota. But he's one of the most, fabulous clawhammer players, and he released a solo album of gourd banjo music, and it sounded like the banjo, but it had a much more mellow, earthy kind of sound. It really caught my ears, and I ended up finding a gourd banjo at a music store up in Ithaca, New York, where I was in college at the time, studying broadcasting. I actually wanted to be a play-by-play broadcaster for the Baltimore Orioles, but
Oh
that's
my.
for another lifetime.
Why do you want to do that?
Yeah. Well, it's yeah, anyway, I don't need to get into the Orioles right now.
That's a big one.
So yeah, so anyway, the gourd banjo really caught my ear and my eyes, and it just as soon as I started playing it, just the mellow, kind of relaxed nature of the sound as compared to the steel string banjo, which is really bright, and I love the sound of a banjo, but the gourd banjo really caught my attention, and that was years ago when I started playing, and then earlier this year releasing a solo album featuring gourd banjo music. The world was clamoring for more solo instrumental gourd banjo, so it's out there now. It's an album called Old Growth. I'm
Yeah,
really
let's
happy.
get a gander at that real quick.
Yeah, it's a
Wow,
beautiful
what a
artwork
cover,
by
dude.
a designer named Kelly Wills, who's out of Oregon, and she works with us on all kinds of design for the
Um,
Baltimore Old Time Music Festival and various other projects over the years. And yeah, it's a really lovely collection of some of my favorite tunes. Wrote some originals on here as well. Lots of old time, a little bit of bluegrass mixed in. It's yeah, it was really just a project over the winter that I just felt compelled to sit down with my gourd banjo for a few recording sessions and just play what kind of came to mind. And yes, there's 16 tunes on there. It's
wow,
all
that's pretty good.
instrumental. It's just nice background listening if you're a banjo player or if you just want sort of a peaceful, mellow banjo meditation. That's Old Growth is for you.
That's it, man. That's great. Good to know about that record. What's going on with Charm City Junction, man?
Yeah, Charm City Junction, a band. We've just hit our 11-year mark as a band. We formed, I guess it was back in 2014 now. It's myself on climber banjo, Patrick McAvinue, fiddle player, who also performs with the U.S. Navy band Country Current. He lives
Right.
here in the Baltimore, D.C. area. A button accordion player, Sean McComiskey, bringing in an Irish component, and then Alex Lackaman on bass. We released an album about a year ago called Salt Box, and it's a collection of some original music and other styles, old time Irish bluegrass. We play about 15, 20 shows a year, various festivals, regional, concerts. We all have lots of projects going on, and that's something you talked about earlier, the idea of how do I juggle all these things, and really I don't really put all my
Juggle's a
eggs
good
in one
word.
basket. I like to mix it around so that I have sort of different things going on to kind of remain inspired and not get too
Right.
burned out in one area. Charm City Junction is always fun playing with those guys. They're basically brothers at this point. And yeah, we still get together and work on new material, and that's just chugging along. I hope to be playing with that band for 20 or 30 more years. We don't have aspirations to be touring internationally. We kind of know that this is a passion project for us. We love the music we make, and kind of it's an unusual combination with accordion and climber banjo and fiddle and bass. It always feels fresh to us, and yeah, we play once or twice a month, and got some more festivals this summer. Heading out to New Mexico in August, and we'll be playing locally a couple of times between now and then here in the Baltimore area. And yeah, we get in a fair bit of travels in the year to keep it nice and fun and fresh.
Exactly. Hey, now you're talking about the Baltimore area. Um, my brother and I recently did a one of those 23andMe deals, and because we were always we had heard stories. You hear stories from your great grandfather did this, he did that, or whatever. And we had always heard about this guy named Francis Dollarhide, and I was like, who is Francis Dollarhide? So we started doing a little bit of research. That was our first relative that came over from Ireland, and he wanted to fight in the Revolutionary War because he did not like British people. And so he jumped a boat, came over, and that's exactly what he did. And after the war, he settled in Baltimore. So when you said that, I was like, wow, wait a minute. You know, maybe our relatives knew each other. You never know. But that being said, we found out later that that Dollarhide name was big in Coal Miner's Daughter. And so we did a little more research. And we recently took a trip to Van Lear, Kentucky, and found all of our relatives.
Whoa.
My great great grandfather had changed our last name from Dollarhide to Dollar. And back then, I guess you could do that fairly easy. I'm not sure how, what the process was. I guess you just had to know a judge or something. I don't know. But that's basically what happened. So in the movie, you hear Sissy Spacek and Tommy Lee Jones are actually standing on the front porch of the old cabin, which we went and toured and everything and met all those people. And he said, "Why? Where's all the smoke coming from out of the mountain?" And Sissy Spacek says something that cemented exactly what we were looking for. Oh, that's just Lee Dollarhide. He's a local moonshiner. Every word she said was true. He was our third cousin.
Whoa.
So we started doing all this research and stuff, man. It was crazy. And he went over actually and met some people, but we spent an entire day over there. We researched the old cemetery, the Dollarhide Cemetery, and all that stuff, man. I mean, we rode a 4-wheeler 2.5 miles up a mountain and got to the top, and there it was in a place called Greasy Creek, if that, tells you anything. But beautiful place. But being from around the same, are you of Irish descent? Maybe?
Yeah, I think a little bit of that on my mom's
Oh,
side. It's
yeah,
kind of a combination. I'm Baltimore born and raised. My dad's
yeah.
family, as I mentioned a while back, they immigrated here back in the early 1900s, and then my mom's family, I think, goes way back to they trace it all the way back to the first just like Mayflower era, way
Wow.
back. But I'm not too sure on my mom's side as much, but certainly my dad's side goes back to early 1900s around Baltimore. And to your point about Baltimore, it's a port city.
Exactly.
Lots of different folks have come through this city over the years, and to tie it back to bluegrass and old time music, there's a long history of
Mhm.
bluegrass and old time here. From what I understand, this was an area that had as much bluegrass and old time in the 50s as anywhere in the country. There were
Exactly.
so many folks in this region who came from Appalachia looking for work in the cities. Also, through the port over the years with so many migrants, different communities, so many different influences here. And I think that's you can even trace it back to the history of the banjo. Like the first banjo
Right.
factory in the world was here in Baltimore back in the mid 1800s. William Boucher, and so there's a long legacy of
No
this
relation
music.
to Bobby Boucher, right?
Yeah, right. I don't know. So there's this whole history here in Baltimore with this music. And while my family isn't necessarily directly connected to it, I do think of being part of this legacy of this music in Baltimore more broadly, and very proud of this city and all warts and all. It's there's a grit, there's an element of folks who live here really dig their heels in and really are proud of this place and want to make it a place to live and have a high quality of life with good music and culture and opportunities to find creative outlets. So I'm really happy to be a Baltimorean and know that there's also a long legacy of this music here.
Oh yeah. I think genetically, my dad always was always sitting around with a guitar in his hand. When he wasn't working, he was doing that. The weekends, you know, the porch was full of people playing music, cooking food, just enjoying life. And I feel the same way you do. I think genetically we've got it from our parents and parents' parents and on back and on back. But I also feel like that like my dad, he just kept that fire stoking every Friday night. That was the thing that just happened. And I'm sure that you've had, you got that in your blood too. I mean,
Yeah, and I think
this
it's
feels
interesting
right.
with that metaphor of stoking the fire. I think by hosting these regular jam sessions, I put on a square dance every month, hosting these house concerts, do this big festival, keeping that fire stoked. More people come out of the woodwork who maybe have a connection to this music, or frankly, lots of people who don't necessarily have a connection to this music. There's something that's kind of because it's community music, old time
Right.
bluegrass music is community music, and we want it to be inclusive and welcome to anybody, whether you have a connection to it or not. There's a joy, there's a sense of connection that you feel with this music, whether it's at a square dance, hooting and hollering, acting silly,
Oh yeah.
or learning your first chords on the banjo, or being at a concert listening to this beat, this infectious beat that groove you feel with old time and bluegrass. It can be for everybody, and you don't necessarily have to be of a certain background to appreciate it. I think this music continues to have a big widening tent, and I think that's to be celebrated, and that's really a through line in my work, trying to find ways for people who maybe think this music isn't for them. Oh, this
Right.
is just for folks who live up in the hills, or this is music that's kind of from a day gone by. It's very much a living, breathing tradition and a style that's still evolving. And I want to create platforms for artists to bring in new fans and building a fan base of not just people who come out to our shows, but people who support this music more broadly. And that's why I'm involved with IBMA and why I put on all these events, and because I see real potential for this music to connect with people who maybe haven't given it a chance.
Right. Exactly. It was kind of weird, uh, just standing on the front of this cabin that we knew that Loretta Lynn had grown up in. And you just look back and through the house and you can almost see the ghosts of the past. Uh, you can imagine a Christmas tree in the corner and, all these kids around, and they might get like one pair of shoes the whole year. But, and when I went there, it all just came rushing back about how we grew up and my dad doing what he did and how that all focused what I was going to do in the future. And, my brother's a great musician now. All my uncles are musicians. Dad was a musician. It's there. And what are you going to do? You just have to ride that train because
And
you got to be
yeah,
true to yourself.
and what a privilege too to be around that music from a young age.
Oh,
I look back now and just think about how grateful I am to be immersed in this style that, or just in roots music and bluegrass and old time from the time I was a little kid. My dad played in a band called Helicon. They were a world folk music trio. They toured quite a bit in the 80s and 90s, and recorded on record labels, and they played shows with folks like Doc Watson and Alison Krauss and
oh,
Jay
wow.
Unger and all these artists. I was 1 or 2 years old. I had no idea what was going on, but looking back, just realizing the access that I had in those early years, and then just being able to create opportunities for other people to have access to this music is continually inspiring to me. And I think also with this music, you're kind of touching on it. It is accessible. Like, you can meet your heroes, you can jam with the stars of this music are not out
Sure.
of reach.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be stars also to be incredibly talented. There's because it's not there aren't as many walls up, I think, between the artists and the performers and the audience. And so it's really communal in that sense that you can
Yeah.
really connect with this music and get to hang out with your heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mountain Music Museum, we used to bring people in every Thursday night, and sometimes you would bring in some ringers. I called them ringers because it was like, nobody would know who the special guest was going to be that night. And you get somebody like Joe Mullins and those guys coming in, and Joe would just tear down the walls, and these people would be freaked out because they had no idea Joe Mullins was going to be there. So one thing I want to touch on before we go any further, how do you feel about the change in location for IBMA this year? You think that's going to be a good thing for it, or?
Oh, I'm so excited. And I think, like a lot of people, including people who work behind the scenes and those who will be coming to Chattanooga for the first time, we're all excited to see what it looks like. It'll definitely feel different. It's not Raleigh. It's a new city. There's some new opportunities there, with the layout of the venue, the convention center, the hotel. There'll be new nooks and crannies for people to jam. There'll
That's
be
cool.
all kinds of interesting outdoor spaces to experience this music. Really awesome restaurants and some great places to stay. I find it to be very accessible once you're on the footprint of the grounds. It's all within walking distance. All the venues that we'll be using. I think it's a really nice location. It's a little further from me in Baltimore as compared to Raleigh, but I think for our friends in Nashville and in East Tennessee, it's really exciting for the folks who live in that region. And I've only been to Chattanooga a couple times. I was there about earlier this summer to do a IBMA meeting and a visit. And we got a sneak preview of the venues that we'll be using in the evening for the showcases, and they're all full of energy and just really interesting settings for this music. I think it's going to put bluegrass in a really nice light, and it'll feel different than Raleigh.
It will.
When the festival and the conference moved years ago. There were some changes, but then pretty quickly people realized, wow, this is the best it's ever been. And I think I'm pretty optimistic that in this new setting, we'll be thinking, oh man, this is an awesome new spot. And but I'm excited. I'm very curious to see what it looks like, just like everyone else. But I'm looking forward to it, and I encourage anyone who's listening to come on down to Chattanooga in September to be at the festival and be part of World of Bluegrass. Come to the conference and experience. It's really a beautiful event, and I went for the first time when it was in Raleigh. I think it was about 2015, and
Mm.
I just thought, how can I be at this every year? How can I find a way to be more involved? This organization provides so many opportunities for artists, for professionals, for fans. It's really looking forward. How do we grow this music? And that just checks all the boxes of the things that I'm passionate about with this music, and being able to provide a platform for more artists and fans to experience the joy of bluegrass and roots music. So that's a
Yeah.
long-winded way of saying I'm excited for Chattanooga, and I hope to see you there too.
Hey, you're a radio guy, man. We get that way sometimes.
Got to fill the dead air.
Exactly. I was always taught that too. Uh, but it's been a great little chat here with you, man. Looking forward to meeting you at IBMA this year, and maybe we can. I'd like to see some changes, maybe in the podcast industry. I'd like to see some growth there. Um, I enjoy it. I enjoy listening to podcasts. I know that podcasts are like one of the fastest growing types of media out there for broadcasters. And I feel like that if we, kind of get maybe some more people involved, but it's kind of blowing up right now. No doubt about it.
Oh, everyone and their brother and cousin, they have a podcast now. And I think,
Have a
to your
podcast,
point, I actually don't have a podcast,
Brad.
so
You need a
I'm holding
podcast.
out. Well, but to your point, yeah, I mean, there's so many. I think all this comes down to storytelling
It
and being able
does.
to share those stories. That's really what inspires people. Is just that connection and those stories, and podcasting is a great platform for that.
It is.
There are some challenges with podcasts. You
Oh
can't
yeah.
necessarily stream, you can't play songs like you can on a traditional radio show. Um, And just like anything, there are lots of good podcasts, there are lots of not so good podcasts, and so
I know what you mean.
how do we raise the tide so that the podcasts that are being produced have that same care and attention and thoughtfulness that it takes to have a really good high quality storytelling medium that's compelling, not just for the person doing the podcast but for the people listening to the podcast. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. So we can certainly get into all that and how that, even though I don't have a podcast. I'm a connoisseur and appreciate what you do, Rick. And
Oh man,
thanks
I
for having
appreciate
me
you.
on.
We appreciate what you guys are doing for IBMA, and you seem to me that you're taking in the concerns and the thoughts of everybody, and I'm sure that's a massive undertaking. I don't want to be in your chair anytime soon. Okay? No.
It's not as scary as it seems. There's a lot of really interesting thoughts and valid concerns about, the future of any organization community. It's because we all care about it. We really want to see this music flourish. So I always have an open ear. Anybody who has thoughts or concerns or ideas, I'm here in service of the bluegrass community and in service of broadcasters. And I know I've signed up for, being a sounding board, and I'm here to help and move this industry and music forward.
That's it. All right. My guest today has been Brad. Say it.
You can do it, Rick.
Oh no, come on. I want to hear it from you.
Kolodner.
Kolodner. There we go. Hey, check him out, man, online. There's a whole lot of stuff going on, and he has a huge plate in front of him every day. It's more like a platter. I don't know how he does it all. A buffet. Yeah, that's a buffet. I like that. Yeah. You're from Baltimore. You can say buffet. I have to say buffet, Rick Dollar here for My Appalachian Home. And just check us out on iHeartRadio, Spotify, any kind of podcast outlets that are out there. We're there. Okay. Thanks, Brad. Have a great day, sir.
Thanks, Rick.
All right. Thanks for riding shotgun with us this week on My Appalachian Home. Remember, life is what you make of it. We'll see you soon.